The car was silent. Wine and Jungkook sat side by side, yet it felt like 1,000 miles stretched between them. Neither of them spoke, neither looked at the other. Both stared straight ahead, lost in their own storm of thoughts. Wine's heart was pounding. All she wanted to get to the hospital, to see her children, to know they were okay. The car finally pulled up in front of the grand hospital building. Before it even came to a complete stop, Wine opened the door and stepped out, rushing towards the entrance. Inside the corridor, footsteps echoed against the marble walls. Doctors and nurses moved briskly, but one of them paused and approached as soon as he recognized them. Wine, doctor, how are the babies? What happened to them? She said breathlessly. The doctor gave a small reassuring note. Doctor, they are much better now. The main issue was a lack of nourishment. They refused to eat, but we have stabilized them. Let's hope this doesn't happen again. Wyan turned her gaze to Jungkook, but he didn't look back. He acted as though she wasn't even there. Wyan, can I see them? She asked, her voice softer now. Doctor, of course, the doctor replied, gesturing toward the room. Wine didn't wait. She hurried in, and the moment she laid eyes on her children, her chest tightened, her knees nearly gave out. The sight of their fragile bodies, their teeny hands with ivy lines taped in place, it shattered something inside her. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. She sat beside them for the rest of the night, watching, holding their hands, whispering softly. Jungkook never entered the room, but he stood by the door, watching. Doctor, you can take the babies home now. We have documented everything you need to do in this file. Feeding schedules, medications, care instructions. Just please make sure this doesn't happen again. Morning came. The doctor walked in, holding a file in his hand. One stood as he entered. Doctor, you can take them home. Wine nodded slowly, her arms already wrapping around her children. She began to prepare them to leave. Suddenly Jungkook stepped into the room. His presence cast a long, cold shadow. The doctor, upon seeing him, quietly stepped out. Jungkook, you are not taking them. If you want to be with them, you will come with me. Wine turned sharply to him. Wyan, I am taking them. Just one night under your roof nearly killed them. After what you have seen, I think you had understand that. Jungkook didn't respond. His eyes were distant, his expression unreadable. Jungkook, I am their father, he said quietly, but with unmistakable weight. You can't take them without me, Wyan. I will take them no matter what. She moved to leave one of the babies. Jungkook gave a subtle nod to his man. In an instant, his guard entered, firm, expressionless. They gently but firmly took the babies from her. Wine resisted, tried to stop them, but she was no match. Her heart sank, her breath caught in her throat. The tears returned, but she swallowed them this time. She was powerless completely. Her eyes met Jungkook's once more. Wyan, I will come with you, she said softly, defeated. Jungkook's lips curled into a faint, cold smile. Without a word, he turned and walked toward the exit. The guards followed with the children, and so, with no other option left to her, Wine followed them. Into the car, into the uncertainty, into the world of the man who held all the power and all the answers. Inside the car, Wine sat quietly with her children resting gently in her lap. The guards didn't object or speak. They simply took their seats in silence. Wine held the babies close, their warmth the only thing grounding her to this moment. Her eyes drifting toward the windows, the passing roads, the blur of the trees and buildings, it all felt like a dream slipping through her fingers. A part of her wanted to open the door and run, but she knew, deep down, there was now her left to run. Jungkook sat beside her, unmoving. His gaze was fixed, forward, unreadable. He hadn't said a single word since they left the hospital. What was he thinking? What did he want? She could not tell. After a long, tense ride, the car finally came to a stop. Everyone stepped out. One of the guards gently helped Wyan out of the vehicles, still cradling the babies. Her eyes widened as she took into the mansion before her, a towering estate, sprawling and pristine, like something out of a royal dream. For the first time, reality struck her with full force. This man, JK, he wasn't ordinary. He had a life far beyond anything she had imagined. Power, wealth, influence. He had everything, except perhaps a heart. As Jungkook stepped forward, the guard of the entrance straightened immediately, bowing their heads respectfully. Wan watched, startled by their rigid discipline. She said nothing, simply followed him as he walked into the house without looking back. Inside, Jungkook gave a single glance toward the head maid, and they scurried into action. A pair of maids rushed forward to take the babies from her arms with practiced care. The twins had fallen asleep. They were carried quietly into the nursery. No one spoke a word. Silence ruled this house. Wine entered the nursery behind them and gently laid the children down herself, ensuring they were comfortable. As she stood there, still staring at their peaceful face, one of the maids approached her. Maid, ma'am, please come with me. I will show you to your room, she said softly. Wine didn't respond. She simply nodded and followed. The bedroom left her speechless. It was enormous, larger than any space she had ever called her own, elegantly furnished, with high ceilings, velvet drapes, and soft lighting that felt more like a luxury hotel than a home. Maid, this will be your room, ma'am. You will be called shortly for lunch. For now, please freshen up. Sir has arranged for your clothes. They will be delivered in a moment. With a small note, the maid excused herself and left Wine alone. She made her way to the bathroom, still dressed and freshened up. When she returned to the bedroom, she found a beautiful dress neatly placed on the bed, along with an entire wardrobe's worth of clothing already hung and arranged in the closet. Everything looked expensive, new, untouched. She picked up the dress to wear, but paused. It fit her perfectly, every stitch, every line, tailored exactly to her measurement. Wyan frowned. How did he know my size so well? The thought unsettled her more than she cared to admit. Just then another maid entered and bowed slightly. Maid, ma'am, please follow me. Lunch is ready. Wyan didn't say a word. She simply followed. Her steps were slow, quiet, thoughtful. She was walking deeper into a world that wasn't hers, a world she hadn't chose, a world wrapped in silk and silence, but one that already felt like a golden case. Wine entered the grand dining room quietly. Jungkook was already seated at the head of the long table, surrounded by an extravagant spread of dishes, delicacies from every cuisine, silver shining under the warm chandelier light. Servants stood still by the walls, their hands folded, eyes cast downward. Without a word, Wine took a seat near the edge of the table. The silence was thick, the kind that echoed loudly in such a large room. Jungkook began to eat, not sparing her a glance. She kept her eyes on her plate, mechanically moving her fork, though her appetite was lost somewhere between fear and fatigue. Jungkook's phone rang. He picked it up. He shouted, his voice thundering under the marble walls. Jungkook, what? How many times have I told you to make sure everything is handled properly? You can't even deliver basic information. He shot up from his chair, face contorted with rage. Jungkook, I give you one task, one, and after all this time you still can't do it right. If I lose my temper, those bullets won't fall to the ground. They will find their mark. I'm coming. He ended the call with a violent press of the screen. Wine flinched, her body tense as her fork slipped against the plate. She didn't dare look up. The air in the room had turned icy, and her heartbeat pounded against her chest. She sat frozen, eyes fixed on the untouched food. Without another word, Jungkook stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The echo of his departure brought a strange relief. Wine exhaled slowly. She hadn't realized she had been holding her breath. She finished her meal in silence and quietly made her way to the nursery. In the nursery, when Wine entered the room, the babies were still asleep in their cribs. The gentle hum of a lullaby floated through the air from a nearby device. She walked over softly and sat beside them, her hand brushing the blankets, heart heavy and full of love. A few moments later, the babies began to stir, their teeny eyes blinked open, and they looked around. When they saw her, they didn't smile or cry, just stared quietly, as though trying to remember something. Wine leaned forward, gathered them gently into her arms, and pressed soft kisses to their foreheads. She turned to call for maid. Wine, can someone bring some warm milk for them? She asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. One of the maids nodded and hurried away. Within minutes she returned with 2 bottles of warm milk. Wine fed the babies herself. As they drank, they slowly began to smile, soft, sleepy grins that reached into her soul. They finished their milk and began to play with her fingers, their laughter finally breaking the silence that had clouded her day. The maid stood nearby, observing quietly, then excused herself without a word. Wine spent a long time playing with the twins, her heart lightening with every giggle, every innocent yawn. Slowly, the babies began to doze off again, their little hands curled around her fingers. She laid them back into their cribs and tucked them in. Then, with a soft sigh, she stepped out and made her way toward the kitchen. Not to eat, but to feel grounded, to do something ordinary in a house that felt like anything but. A storm was brewing around her. She could feel it, but for now she needed the small comfort of normalcy, anything to remind her that she was still herself. The kitchen smelled of spices, simmering broths, and freshly baked bread. It was vast, much larger than any kitchen Wine had ever seen, with an army of chefs moving in perfect wraith, chopping, stirring, plating. The clatter, untales, and low murmur of instruction filled the air. One stood at the doorway, a quiet observer amid the chaos, her eyes wide with astonishment. She had her own cafe, yes, but this was something else. Her small business had no mini-servant, no luxury. This was another world entirely. Noticing her still figure, a woman stepped away from the flurry of activity and approached her. She was elderly, perhaps in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair tied neatly behind her head and eyes that held years of wisdom and weariness. "Headmaid, ma'am, do you need anything?" the woman said gently. Wine offered a polite smile. Wine, "No, I am just looking around." The woman nodded. "Headmaid, if you ever need something, please let me know. I am the headmaid here. If there's any problem, I am the one to call." Wine acknowledged her with a soft nod, but a thought suddenly crossed her mind. "Wine, how long have you worked here, auntie?" she asked curiously. The woman chuckled. "Headmaid, it's been 40 years now." Wine's eyes widened. Before she could mask her reaction, the woman noticed. "Headmaid, you are surprised I have worked here so long. Well, I have been here since before young master was born. I raised him with my own hand," she said with a smile. Wine blinked. "Young master?" The headmaid laughed softly, her voice warm with nostalgia. "Headmaid, you don't recognize him by that name, do you? The man you came with. Everyone here calls him master or sir, but to me, he is still the little boy I used to chase around the garden. He will always be young master to me." Wine stayed silent, listening intently. Her mind was swirling with questions, 100 thoughts she had not dared voice since arriving in this house. One question, however, rose to the surface, too loud to ignore. She hesitated, then asked softly, "Wine, where is the children's mother? I haven't seen her. Did she pass away?" The air changed instantly. The warmth drained from the old woman's face. Her eyes froze, her lip parted, then closed again, as if the word refused to form. She leaned closer to Wine, lowering her voice until it was barely audible. "Headmaid, don't ask that question again. Never mention it to anyone. If those words reach the young master's ears, he won't spare you. He will kill you." The warning hit Wine like a bolt of cold lightning. Her hands turned clammy, a chill spread across her spine. She could not speak, could not move. The headmaid quietly noticed her fear and softened her voice. "Headmaid, don't be afraid. Just keep your silence. That's all you need to do." They spoke for a few minutes, carefully sidestepping the subject. The tension remained, an invisible thread between them. Suddenly, a young maid burst into the kitchen, breathless and flustered. Maid, ma'am, the children are awake. They are crying. You need to come quickly. Wine didn't hesitate. She turned and rushed toward the nursery, her dress swaying behind her. As she disappeared around the corridor, the headmaid stood still for a moment, lost in thoughts. Her eyes lingered on the direction Wine had gone, and a shadow of uneasy crossed her face. She had seen many people come and go from this mansion, but this girl was different, and something told her so were the days to come. The nursery was filled with the soft clinking of toys and the innocent bubble of imagination. One stepped inside and froze for a moment, watching the scenes before her. Teeny hands holding maids' hair, their faces turned red because of crying. Smiling, Wyan walked over and gently scooped the children into her arms. Wyan, oh, are my little babies missing me already? She teased, her voice full of affection. The moment the word left her lips, the children erupted into giggles, sweet, unrestrained laughter that echoed off the pastel-colored walls. Wyan, naughty little ones, she whispered, tugging playfully at their cheeks. She kissed their soft faces and snuggled them closer. Their laughter continued as they played with her, pulling her hair, climbing onto her lap, showering her with joyous energy. The maid stood quietly in a corner observing. They didn't speak, didn't interrupt. They simply watched with eyes that betrayed a mix of awe and sorrow. For them, this nursery was the only part of the mansion that felt alive. Laughter lived here, stories grew here, warmth lingered in every corner. Now her ills in the house felt like home. Time slipped by unnoticed, evening faded into night. Eventually, Wine tucked the children, their gifts, and returned to her room. She had asked around and learned that Jungkook would not be returning tonight. Apparently, he was away on some kind of mission. The thought brought her unexpected comfort. Finally, she would sleep without tension. Morning. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, warming the marble floor of the nursery. Wine changed the children's diapers, fed them their morning meal, and played with them until their tiny bodies grew tired once again. As noon approached, she made her way to the dining room for lunch. The long table was adorned with an impressive array of dishes, steaming vegetables, grilled meats, warm breads, and colorful fruits. But something was missing: Jungkook. She had assumed he would have returned by now. Her brows furrowed slightly. Wyan turned to a nearby servant and asked, Wyan, has your master returned? The servant shook his head. Servant, no ma'am, he hasn't come back yet. We don't know when he will. Wine didn't respond. She simply nodded, then sat down quietly and finished her meal. Afterward, she returned to her room. Wine's room. She lay on the bed trying to relax. Her body needed rest, but her mind was raging. Suddenly her phone rang. The name on the screen made her sit up. Lily. Guilt washed over her. She hadn't contacted the cafe for days. Lily must be panicking. She answered the call. Lily, where have you been? I have been trying to reach you for days. You just vanished. What's going on? Lily's voice was breathless, words trembling over each other in panic. She is shouting. Wyan, relax. Don't get so worked up. I am okay. Nothing happened to me, she said calmly. Then she told Lily everything. How she found the babies abandoned at the hospital, how they were sick, how Jungkook appeared out of nowhere and took control, how he brought her here and insisted she stay with the children. She spoke every word quietly but clearly. When she finished, there was silence. Then, fury. Lily, that's incense. You can't stay here. Bring the children and come back. We will go to court if we have to. One sign. Wyan, it's not that simple. You know how powerful he is. We don't stand a chance right now. I can't leave the babies alone. They need me. For now, I have to stay. Lily's voice softened. Lily, don't worry about the cafe. I will take care of everything. You can trust me. Wyan, I do. I trust you completely, she said gently. They hung up. Wine remained on the bed for a while, her thoughts heavy and tangled. Everything felt like a whirlwind. So much had changed in just a few days. Slowly her eyes began to close. The weight of exhaustion finally won over her restless mind, and she drifted into sleep. Night had fallen over the mansion like a velvet curtain. In the nursery, the only sound were the rhythmic breaths of slumbering children. One sat beside them on the cushioned floor, gently running her finger through their soft hair. The little ones had played to their heart's content and now lay curled up in peaceful sleep. But serenity never lasted long in this house. Suddenly, a sharp, angry voice echoed from downstairs. It cut through the stillness like a blade. Wine froze. The shouting grew louder, fiercer. There was no mistaking it. Jungkook. Cautiously, Wan rose and crept out of the nursery, careful not to wake the children. Her heart beat faster with every step. She moved down the staircase slowly, keeping to the shadows. From the landing, she saw him. Jungkook stood in the grand hallway, surrounded by his guards. His voice was thunderous, his expression cracked from fury. He barked orders, his gestures sharp and aggressive. The guards nodded and moved quickly, following him down a long corridor she hadn't noticed before, toward a part of the mansion she had never explored. Curiosity worried with fear. Wine hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to return upstairs, but something about Jungkook's demeanor, something about the direction they were heading, made her step forward instead. Silently she followed. The corridor grew darker, colder. The lights became sparse. The walls damped and eerily quiet. Soon Jungkook and his man reached a heavy wooden door, nearly hidden in the shadow, and disappeared inside. Wine stopped. Should she go further? Her breathing quickened. Her palms were cold with sweat. She felt like a trespasser in a place forbidden not just by man, but by fate itself. Then footsteps. They were returning. Without thinking, one ducked into a narrow alcove, her back pressed against the cold stone wall, her hand clenched at her sides. She held her breath as Jungkook and the guards emerged, their faces grim, their voices low and urgent. They passed. Only after the last echo of their boots faded did Wyan dare to move again. Her legs trembled as she stepped toward the mysterious door. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to turn around, to run, but something dim within pushed her forward. The door cracked as she opened it slightly. A staircase spiraled down into pitch blackness. It was like staring into the mouth of the unknown. Still, one summoned every ounce of courage she had. Her finger grazed the damp wall for balance, and step by step she descended into the dark. What waited below she didn't know, but she was about to find out.